National Convention. KBLA Talk 1580 will be the only talk station in LA with 5 shows broadcasting live from the DNC in Chicago, August 19th through the 23rd. Dominic DePrima, Nicolai Corte, Areva Martin, Adrian Shropshire, and Tavis Smiley will all be in Chicago bringing the convention to you like no other talk station in Southern California for the critical issues and conversations that matter most to you. Keep it locked to KBLA Talk 1580. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got Kamala covered.
Up. You can be anything in the world, and God we trust. An architect, doctor, maybe an actress, but nothing comes easy. It takes much practice. Like I met a woman who's becoming a star. She was very beautiful, leaving people in awe. Singing songs, Lena Horne, but the younger version hung with the wrong person. Got her strung on that. Sniffing up drugs, all in the nose. Could've died so young, now looks ugly and old. No fun, cause now when she reaches for hugs, people hold their breath, cause she smells of corrosion and death. Watch the company you keep and the crowd you bring, cause they came to do drugs and you came to sing. So if you're gonna be the best, I'ma tell you how. Put your hand in the air and take the vow. I know I can, be what I wanna be. If I work hard at it, I'll be where I wanna be.
That's right, folks. If you know you can be where what you want to be. That's right, and I want to be right here with you as we have these conversations. I'm your special guest host, Farajii Muhammad. This is Areva Martin in real time, and of course, you're tuned into KBLA Talk 1580. Oh man, if you're out and about, if you're trying to make your way home, trying to take care of your business still, and you're out and about, just be careful. I know it's a sunny day, but you know, that earthquake situation, man. That had me thinking. Boy, that was, woo, that had me thinking, L.A. I was like, oh. I was like, ooh, I moved here, and this is what happens. I'm going to stay, though. I'm going to be a trooper. I'm going to be a trooper, but today's little shake-up got me thinking, though. But it's all good. It's all good. We're on the right track now. And again, I thank y'all so much for tuning in to the show. We have been having a fantastic conversation in the first half of the show, talking to Ashley Banks, Capitol Hill correspondent, about the political moment that we're in. But that was a moment, Andy.
Was this your first ever earthquake, Farajii?
I don't want to sound like a scaredy cat, but yes. I don't want to sound like. You know what I'm saying? It was just a little movement. It's a little movement.
Us Californians, we're used to 4.7s. That's nothing. That's like we could sleep through it. A couple of friends was like, I didn't feel nothing. But just wait till it goes up to like 6 and 7.
No, sir.
You might want to leave.
No, sir.
I'm just saying, bro. Just saying.
I like how you say that's just the trailer. You haven't seen the feature presentation. I don't want to stick around for that, but God willing, we're going to get through this all together. But folks, make sure y'all do your due diligence. Speaking of shaking up, let's continue to do our support for us here on at KBLA Talk 1580. Make sure you go to our website at KBLA1580.com. Go to our social media. Follow us on all social media platforms at KBLA 1580. Follow my sister, my big sister, who gave me the space to just hold down the seat while she's taking care of the business. My sister, Areva Martin. Follow her on all social media platforms. And you can also follow me if you've been enjoying the conversations that I've been having with a number of dynamic voices and individuals. You can follow me at The Real Farajii on social media, on Instagram, at The Real Farajii, at Farajii on the X platform, and I would love to connect with you. Now, speaking of connection, I'm very, very excited about our next voice. He is a brother who understands the power, the meaning, and the importance of connecting. as he is a history professor from the Department of History for the College of Arts and Science at the Great Ohio State University. And he also serves as the brother of Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. And so we're happy to have Dr. Hassan Kwame Jeffries joining us on the line as he talks to us about teaching the hard lessons of history in an effective way. And it is such an important conversation, especially as this is the beginning of the school season. So I've been looking forward to having this conversation with my brother. So I want to welcome him now to Areva Martin here on Real Time. Areva Martin in Real Time here on KBLA Talk 1580. Dr. Hassan Jeffries. Dr. Jeffries, thank you so much, dear brother, for joining us this evening. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. The ground is steady here in Ohio, so I'm no complaints.
Hey, brother. Hey, man, you had to come on the air like that, brother.
I don't know how y'all do it. I don't know
hey,
how y'all
brother.
do it.
Hey, look, my man Andy.
A lot of things when the earth shakes.
Hey, look, Andy had to, my engineer Andy, he had to kind of like calm me down at first. We were talking about it, and he was like, "Farajii, this is light work, Farajii. I'm gonna just tell you, you wasn't around for 1994, but this is light work. I can imagine too. Dr. Jeffries, man, it is such an honor and privilege and pleasure to chat with you, especially right now, Doc, because there is so much uncertainty about what's going on into the classroom. There's what some people would refer to as a culture war within the classroom. Before we get into the weeds of the work that you do of history, what do you make of the culture war? What do you make of this ongoing battle, quote unquote, that we see within curriculums across this country? And I was reading a piece that some states are now getting back into reinstating Black history for this school year. What do you make of all of this?
Well, first, I think it's important to always be honest and name things as they are. The culture wars is a nice euphemism for the battle around white supremacy. The effort that we're confronting as educators who want to teach history honestly, who want to teach history in a truthful way, who want to teach history that happened, are coming up against the forces who are promoting, either consciously or unconsciously, but unfortunately, very, very many of them are promoting this consciously, a narrative that reinforces white supremacy. The whole effort that we've seen this most recent manifestation of this effort not to teach history as it actually happened is a direct response to the youth organizing millions of young people taken to the streets in the summer of 2020. That was the largest protest that we ever saw in American history. And these kids, 20 to 30 million people taken to the streets in June of 2020, another 20 to 30 million taken to the streets the next year, mostly white kids, by the way, multiracial, multi-ethnic, multi-generational, but mostly white kids, mostly white people. And those kids were asking for something that they had never asked for before, demanding something they had never demanded before, and that was an end to systemic racism. I mean, now look, you know as well as I do, Black folks been calling for an end to systemic racism since 1619.
Facts.
We got off the boat. We're like, this system ain't working for us. We need to do something differently.
Facts. Come on, brother.
But this is the first time. That we had white folk and young white kids, the young kids, who were like, we got to bring an end to systemic racism. We got to change the society. Now that means we were actually, as educators, especially our K-12 educators, they were doing the work. They were getting these kids to look critically at the world around them, and they recognized that the world around them was coming up short, and that white supremacy, racism, embedded in our systems and structures was a major problem. And so they were calling for an end to it. And so the pushback that we are having now, especially around African American history, because it's such a valuable prism through which to see the world, is directly connected to the desire of those who benefit from the status quo, who don't want to see anything change. It's their effort to say, all right, we got to stop what it is that is convincing, that is educating, that is informing young people and getting them to ask the question, why is the world the way it is and how come it's not better? And so the work of educators is critical, And the pushback of politicians and elected officials is a direct response to the work that was being done in the classroom.
Dr. Jeffers, you have said a mouthful, brother, and as I'm listening to you, I'm trying to just process and unpack some of these ideas that you're putting forth for us to consider.
Yeah.
Just because, going back and I, we got to take a quick pause, but I want us to really look at that, because I think what you laid out is a great frame, a nice thesis for this place that we find ourselves in, that it's not older people that is calling for history to be changed. It's not just black folks that's calling for this to be taught. It is younger folks. It is white folks. And as one who is studying history, I want to kind of just give you a few moments very quickly. How, as one who studies history, when you see that it's coming from the people who aren't as affected by that, what is that a sign of? Is that a sign of what exactly? What are we looking at here?
We're looking at the success of what the African American freedom struggle has been all about. It's about bringing about a society that is just, that provides equality and opportunity for all people. The Black freedom struggle has never just been about freedom for Black people. It's been about freedom for everyone. And the fact that you saw members of the dominant group, the white folk, little Kylie out in the suburbs, looking around and been like, wait a minute, this is not just working for Black folk, for people of color, for women, for members of the LGBTQ community. This also isn't working for me. You got to remember, the generation that we saw taken to the streets in the summer of 2020, this is a generation that was coming of age during the 2008 recession. Right? So they're moving into a period. They got the recession where their parents are getting hit hard. Then you got 2014, 2015, Black Lives Matter. Then Donald Trump gets elected, right? When that was supposed to be Hillary Clinton. She has so many things. The March Against Violence. These young kids that are dealing with school shootings. And so, and Black folk and young Black people were giving them a framework for understanding the problems of the society. And so what it says is not that we have reached the promised land. It says that the messaging, the education has been reaching into these schools, and kids are looking and thinking for themselves and saying, you know what, something has to change.
Hold that thought, Doc. We just getting into it, and I'm so happy and glad to hear it from Dr. Hassan Kwame Jeffries, who is the College of Arts and Science Alumni Associate Professor of History at the Great Ohio State University. Folks, we are getting into it, and I'm excited about it. Stay with us. We got a lot more to cover in this next hour here on Areva Martin in real time, right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's the real deal in real time. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580. Tavis is like George and Wheezy. He's moving on up. Last year, Tavis was number 45 on the Talkers magazine list of the 100 most important radio talk show hosts in America. Wait for it. Wait for it. The 2024 list was recently released, and Tavis has jumped to number 33 on the list of the nation's most important talkers, making him the highest-ranked African American on the coveted roster. Congratulations to Tavis Smiley from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580. We've got you black.
Febreze Fabric Talk. Hey, it's me, your couch. Today's my favorite day of the week, Febreze Fabric Spray Day. The occasional deep cleans are nice, but in between, I'm needing a refresh. Ooh, here she comes with the Febreze Fabric Spray. Oh yeah, spritz them armrests. Don't be shy. Nothing like a good spray down to get me smelling so fresh and clean. Don't forget my back. Nice. Febreze Fabric Spray. It's just that easy. Now we can both breathe happy. Febreze. La 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 la.
Always night pads are designed for a perfect night's sleep. So you can do your bear hugging a pillow thing, your free falling starfish thing, your burritoed in a blanket with the AC blasting thing. While Always night pads with rapid dry do their we've got your back with fast absorbency and up to 10 hours of protection thing. So while your period's doing its own thing, Always lets you do your sleep thing. Shop for Always in-store or online, wherever you get your pads.
KBLA Talk 1580 invites you to join us for a book party celebrating The Covenant with Black America 20 years later. Almost 2 decades ago, the Covenant book, compiled and edited by Tavis Smiley, climbed to #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list and stayed there for weeks. The first book by a black-owned publisher to achieve such a feat. The urgency of the issues that matter most to black fellow citizens has only intensified, especially in this critical election year. On Wednesday evening, August 14th, 6 to 9 p.m., come meet Tavis Smiley alongside Covenant contributors including Cornel West, Connie Rice, Mark Ridley Thomas, Elisa Orduna, Tyrone Howard, and Melina Abdullah as they sign copies of The Covenant with Black America 20 years later. You can purchase your books on site and get them autographed. That's Wednesday evening, August 14th, 6 to 9 p.m. in the city of Los Angeles. Admission is free, but you must register at KBLA1580.com. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. There's no time like the present. Let's get back to more of Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Let's take it back to Dr. Hassan Kwame Jeffries, who is a professor of history in the Department of History of College of Arts and Science at The Ohio State University. And Dr. Jeffries, my brother, I am getting just your opening statements, your opening remarks got me excited because it speaks to where we are right now, right? That there's a shift, that what we saw in 2020, and I loved how you framed it, dear brother, that you talked about the black freedom struggle. The black freedom struggle wasn't just for black people. And I have stood on business on many conversations about this. That and it's interesting that I know you know, and your brother Hakeem Jeffries, and many others, those who are in positions of power and influence, they know that when black people win, all people win.
Yes.
Right? When black people win, all people win. Right? And I think that one of the cardinal sins of this country, there are a lot now. There are a lot, right? You're a professor of history. You can name them.
Absolutely.
But one of the great cardinal sins of history is the denial that you think that America is going to get better when you deny her former slaves freedom, justice, and equality. How does that happen, Doc?
You're spot on. You're absolutely spot on. I mean, the struggle. If we look at just we're coming up on America's 250th anniversary.
Yeah.
So the 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States, just in a couple years. And if you look at the expansion of basic civil rights and human rights to those who are here in America. And what has become America. Yeah. The forward movement, the expansion of democracy, has almost always been connected to the struggle for freedom and justice, for the struggle for basic civil rights and human rights, has been led by African Americans. You know, if you look at whether we're talking about the expansion, the ending of slavery and involuntary servitude through the Civil War and the efforts of African Americans to lead the charge for emancipation, or we're talking about 100 years later in the civil rights movement. This just wasn't about putting a ballot in black folks' hands. This was about what? Opening up and creating a fair process of entry in terms of immigration into the United States with the 1965 changes to the 1965 immigration law. All of the immigrants who would be here from that post 1965 last 50 years would not be here if not for that struggle of African Americans to say, no, you know what? This isn't just a white man's country. We got to open it up to be a part of the global community. But the corollary, let me add this though. Mm-hmm. While the struggle of African Americans have led the charge to say, make this a true democracy, let America live up to the words that it put down on paper, even though it didn't mean it back then. It's too late. You can't take it back. No take backs, right? It's on paper now. Right. You got to deal with it. Even though if you improve, when you extend basic protections and civil rights to African Americans, everyone benefits. Yeah. That is demonstrably proven within history. But the opposite of that, if you will, this idea that, well, if you just, a rising tide lifts all boats. Now, that is patently false in the sense that if you say, well, if we ignore race, right, and just say, okay, we're just going to create general economic opportunity without specific attention to those groups that have been historically marginalized, then those groups historically will continue to be marginalized, which speaks to the importance of having a race-conscious agenda and race-conscious policies when we're addressing the problems that continue to plague African Americans. Only if you do that do all groups benefit. But approaching this in sort of a colorblind, mythic way, African Americans will continue, and people of color, historically marginalized groups, will continue not to benefit from those particular investments.
So talk to us about the now that you have laid out this this beautiful foundation of thought, and this, as we say it here, we have this inventory of ideas. Talk to us a little bit about how we're in this place, right? Because this seems like there isn't a lot of denialism that's at play here, that's at work, where we're in the classroom. Now you're it's not just about not teaching history. It's about not teaching history, and then if you decide to teach history, you distort it, you massage it, you change it so to the point where it's unrecognizable, and it doesn't have its empowering effect. So Dr. Jeffrey, share with us, what are the consequences of doing such a thing, especially as a teacher, especially as a school district? What are the consequences of that? Because now, from what I'm hearing, is that the more that you do that, it's like you really are working against your own interests, because now it's not just black students that's not getting the history.
Yeah.
It's white students, it's Latino students, it's Native American students, it's Asian American students, right? And now it's like the old thing that we all taught as a child. When somebody tells you you can't do something or you shouldn't do something, it makes you want to do that thing even more.
Right.
So talk to us about that dynamic, brother.
No, absolutely. The purpose of teaching history, right? The purpose of teaching history, and we can use the American context in this instance, is not just simply so you can sort of learn about things that occurred in the past. You have to learn about things that occurred in the past and why they occurred and how they occurred and what impacts they had in the past. You have to do that in order to understand and make sense of the present. See, that's the connection. So, on January 6th, of course, we know everything that happened on January 6th, 2021, and many people, myself included, were shocked. We had never seen in American history this, an attempt to stop the peaceful transfer of power and an invasion by domestic forces, if you will. The Confederacy never made it to D.C. in that way, to invade the nation's capital. I was shocked by it, but I wasn't surprised. There's a difference. I was shocked because I hadn't seen it, but I was not surprised because if we know our history, the history of Reconstruction, post-emancipation, African Americans gaining their freedom, 1867, gaining the right to vote for African American men, electing black men to state legislatures, to county courthouses, to the federal government and Congress and in the Senate. And then what do we see? We see Reconstruction not failing, which is often taught in schools, but Reconstruction is defeated by force of arms, by the use of violence and racial terrorism. We see coup d'etats, literal coup d'etats, attempted actual racial massacres to rid county courthouses, and in Louisiana, Colfax, 1873, to rid county parishes of black elected officials and their white Republican allies. 1898, just a little bit after Reconstruction, the coup that occurs in Wilmington, North Carolina, overturning the largest city in North Carolina at the time, ousting a duly elected black and white Republican county government and installing a white supremacist, and they're calling it a white supremacist, a new government led by Democrats. And so if we would have understood that, then what we would have saw on January 6th, we'd have been like, oh, okay, I know where this is coming from, because the connective tissue of history tells us that the most powerful political organizing tool that America has ever created in the and deployed in the post-emancipation era, last 150 years, is racism. And this idea that black political black participation in the electoral process. This is what undermines Reconstruction. The idea that black participation in the electoral process renders the outcome of that election illegitimate, and you therefore can use violence in the name of white supremacy to oust and overturn that outcome. That is exactly what Donald Trump was playing up, leading into January 6, 2021. Because when he talks about this election was fraudulent, this election was, there was cheating. What is he talking about? He's talking about Atlanta and Detroit and Milwaukee. He's playing to this idea that black political participation in the electoral process rendered the outcome illegitimate. That's that old Reconstruction racism. And if we would have been, cognizant, if we would have been aware, and cognizant of that, and talking about, wait a minute, from day one, as soon as the election results, but even before they came in, if we would have been saying, listen to what he's doing, because we can predict what's going to happen. And with January 6th is exactly what happened in Colfax in 1873, in Wilmington, North Carolina in 1898. If we don't understand the past, we won't be able to make sense of the present. And then the final piece of that is, if we don't understand the present, if we don't teach our kids how to make sense of the present, then they won't be prepared to address the problems that we haven't been able to solve today. They are not responsible for what happened in the past. They ain't no little white kid running around here responsible for slavery. They ain't responsible for Jim Crow or even the mess that we have today. But all of our children are responsible for tomorrow. And it's our duty as educators to prepare them for tomorrow. And if we do not do that, by teaching the truth about the past and talking honestly about the present, then we're committing educational malpractice.
Let me just say we got to take a quick pause when we come forward. Doc, you in there now? You cooking with fish grease right now, brother? You cooking? Look, I gotta say this, that when we come forward, I want to share. We got more statistics. I mean, more great conversations with Dr. Jeffries, but I want to share some statistics because you talked about Trump, you talked about racism, and I just came across a piece from theintercept.com where they talked about this, and in their piece they said racism is why Trump is so popular. And so we're having some very, very different conversations about racism and white supremacy. Folks, stay with us. This is Areva Martin in real time. I'm Farajii Muhammad. This is KBLA Talk 1580.
Areva time is the right time. More of Areva Martin in real time when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott and fiancée Hannah Pugh tied the knot in a surprise private ceremony on Sunday. The ceremony was performed by Baltimore Circuit Court Judge Lynn Stewart Mays at the Margaret Cleveland Walther Gardens and Nursery, and a reception followed. The mayor, who was black, and Pugh met during a Baltimore music festival in 2022, and they welcomed their son Charm in December. In a statement, the mayor's office says it is thrilled for the newly married couple and, quote, "We know the entire city of Baltimore will join us in wishing them congratulations as they celebrate with loved ones at the beginning of this joyous union," end quote. New York City has a new fire commissioner. Mayor Eric Adams, who is black, introduced businessman Robert Tucker, who will take over for Laura Kavanaugh. Tucker has never been a firefighter, but has deep ties to the department, is on the board of trustees of the New York Fire Department Foundation, and has public safety job experience. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Got a crash now in El Segundo, the 405 southbound at the 105. The carpool and left lanes are blocked. Traffic's jammed back from Century Boulevard. Also in Anaheim Hills, the 91 eastbound at Weir Canyon crashed there on the right shoulder, making for a pretty miserable drive. If you're trying to get through the Santa Clarita area, a little brush fire off the side of the 14 southbound past Newhall. The two right lanes are blocked there.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. Blindster is a family-run business that began in 2010, and we've sold millions of custom blinds, shades, and shutters and received over 100,000 five-star reviews. Don't hire an expensive pro. Do it yourself and save big at Blindster.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Rams' backup quarterback situation might be a serious problem for the team. Stetson Bennett led the Rams to a comeback win Sunday over the Dallas Cowboys, but he threw 4 interceptions in the game. That's a high number of turnovers for a preseason game, especially against a defense that used rookies, free agents, and reserve players most of the game. The Rams have 3.5 weeks to figure out what they have in backup quarterbacks behind starter Matthew Stafford. The Associated Press preseason top 25 college football rankings are out. The top 5, Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, and Alabama. USC is 23rd. The Angels are back home after a 3-3 road trip. They play Toronto tonight. The Dodgers are in Milwaukee tonight to start a 7-game road trip. Now that the Summer Olympics are over, the WNBA season will resume Thursday. The LA Sparks will be at home Thursday night against the New York Liberty. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
I need you, dollar, that's what I need.
KBLA Talk 1580 celebrates small businesses, the enduring lifeblood of our community, with the launch of the KBLA SMB Marketplace. For the first time, small to medium-sized businesses will have an opportunity to promote their goods and services on KBLA and take advantage of our powerful reach and local marketing power. The SMB Marketplace is hosted exclusively on KBLA1580.com and is accessible from all our social media channels. Whether you're a small mom and pop restaurant, a car dealership, or a professional practitioner, we invite you to join in this new KBLA Talk 1580 initiative to promote your business. As a black-owned small business, you don't want to miss this unique opportunity to gain new customers on KBLA Talk 1580. For more information, contact us today at smb@kbla1580.com. That's smb@kbla1580.com. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
And if I share with you my story, would you share your shadow with me? Time to get
Climate justice, climate equity, climate resilience. By any other name, we demand environmental justice in 2024 and beyond. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we don't black down.
Oh, man. Looks like Bobby needs a ride to the airport again.
Grab the keys. Who's taking Auntie and her friends to the swap meet? Grab the keys.
How about we drop these boxes off at Miss Johnson?
Grab the keys.
Whether you're giving rides or hauling gear, you're all about getting things done. So do it all in a Chevy SUV. From the versatile Equinox and sporty Blazer to the roomy Traverse, our lineup of SUVs will carry you through every adventure. All you have to do is
grab the keys.
That's how we do. Head to your local Chevy dealer, where well-qualified buyers get 1.9% financing on all 2024 Malibu, Colorado, Blazer, Equinox, Trailblazer, and Traverse limited models. Chevrolet. Together, let's drive.
1.9% APR for 36 months. Monthly payment is $28.60 for every $1,000 you finance. Example down payment 15.8%. Must finance with GM Financial. Some customers may not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 7/1/24.
Are you tired of being stuck without internet access? Connect and go with LA County Library. It's simple. Visit your local LA County Library location and borrow a hotspot for free to get Wi-Fi wherever you are.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
And we're talking to Dr. Hassan Jeffries, who is a history professor at the College of Arts and Sciences at The Ohio State University. And Dr. Jeffries is dropping some jewels as he's talking to us a little bit about the importance of teaching history, but in a very, very relatable, usable way for us to connect the dots, right? And I'm gonna be honest, it wasn't until years after I got out of school, Dr. Jeffries, that I've started to understand the value of history. And I took it in school. I went, from middle school, from junior high school all the way up to high school, and I went to even in some college. But the connecting the dots, which is pivotal for my understanding of things now, but connecting the dots was not. It's a skill, and that you have to learn. It's something that you have to help people to understand, because it's not easy, because people don't see themselves as part of history. History is being taught outside of ourselves, especially as black folks in this country, right? that the limited history, it seems like our struggle is an isolated struggle, but it's not a struggle of a country, of a generation, of a globe. We're not. Our history is not taught in the context of us, of the global struggle within humanity. So there was a lot of, I think, disconnectedness that has happened over these years. But the way you're framing this conversation, I think, is absolutely important and pivotal. Now, the thing is, a couple of things. In the previous segment, I just shared, and I wanted to just throw this out there because there are a couple of things I want to get to. I see you, I see some of our listeners, Mackie Samuels. I'm going to get to your comment. Morris Phillips, get to your comment, and I'm going to share that statistic as well. But the first one is about racism. You keyed in on this, Dr. Jeffries. You talked about racism. Mm-hmm. You talked about Trump. The Intercept.com, they put out an article about 2 days ago, and I think it's always fascinating when white people talk about racism. When white people are talking about racism, now you know it's a problem, right? Right. But they put out a piece called "Racism is Why Trump is So Popular. Trump's popularity with his base isn't the result of economic anxiety, as many claimed in 2016, according to this article. It's about race and demographics." And I want to get your take on this, Doc. There in this article, the writer who goes by, his name is James Risen. He says, you just need to know these basic facts. In 1980, white people accounted for about 80% of the U.S. population. So we're talking about, 44 years ago? In 2024, Dr. Jeffries, white people account for about 58% of the U.S. population. And this is based on the Census Bureau. This is not just some made-up numbers. This is based on the Census Bureau. Mr. Risen said, Trump appeals to white people gripped by demographic hysteria, especially older white people who grew up when white people represented a much larger share of the population. They fear becoming a minority. While the Census Bureau says there are still 195 million white people in America and that they are still the majority, the white population actually declined slightly in 2023, and experts believe that they will become a minority sometime between 2040 and 2050. Let me do the math on this. 2040, we're talking about 16 years.
Right.
16 years, so, Dr. Jeffrey.
Yeah, that's around the corner. It's around the corner.
Talk to me about this, brother. Help me to understand. Break this thing down for us.
So I think it is absolutely, let's park that for a second, because it's connected to something that I think is much longer, has much longer roots, much deeper roots. You mentioned 1980. 1980 is really pivotal, because 1980, of course, is the year that Ronald Reagan will take the White House. It's the beginning of, sort of the modern resurgence of the Republican Party. Ronald Reagan, governor of California, the Great Bear State, he announces his run for the presidency, not in California, not in Washington, D.C., not in New York. He announces it in Philadelphia, Mississippi. There ain't nothing ever happened in Philadelphia, Mississippi, except the killing of 3 civil rights workers there in 1964. This is no accident by Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan is signaling to the disaffected white South that I got your back. Come into the Republican Party. We will welcome you, those who have fled the Democratic Party in 1964 and 1968 following the passage of the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, and they were looking for a home. Nixon's Southern strategy, saying, hey, let's appeal to these white Southerners. Let's appeal to those who are pro-segregation, who are pro-white supremacy. He wins in 68, but then he has that little thing called the Watergate, right? So the Republicans lose, but Ronald Reagan picks up that mantle and says, we will be the party of white supremacy. Now, we're not going to frame it in that way, but that's why I'm down here in Philadelphia, Mississippi, announcing my campaign, saying that you now have a home. you have to draw a straight. That's that racism being that powerful political organizing tool. Now, at that time, this isn't about, we're worried just about our demographic numbers. The fear was, what happens if we allow people of color, in this instance, African Americans in particular, to participate in our society on an equal basis? Then the privileges that come with white supremacy, we will begin to lose those. Now, for the business elite, that's about economics. But for those in Mississippi who aren't benefiting economically from white supremacy in any kind of express way, they are benefiting from the social privileges of it. I'm up here in Ohio, and anytime I talk about white privilege, right? There's somebody from J.D. Vance country, right? From Southeast Ohio, and they're like, "Look, what are you talking about, Dr. Jeffries? I grew up dirt poor. We didn't even have water. We had to drink motor oil, right? We had no." And I said, "Look, this is not. It's called white privilege. It's not called white guarantee, right? You're not guaranteed to be rich in America if you are white, but you do have the privilege of not having to deal with certain obstacles simply because you're black or brown."
Yeah.
So that privilege, that social privilege, is so deeply rooted. I mean, that's the access to public education because of the siphoning off of resources from the black community. So there is a deep investment, even if it's unconscious. So you have people today, it's like, why are these poor white people in Mississippi and Alabama and in rural California, why are they voting for, Donald Trump and the Republican Party, this elitist party? It's like, they're not voting in their interest. No, they're not. They may not be voting in their explicit economic interest, but from their perspective, they absolutely are, because they have fallen into that belief that their economic misfortune is because of black people. Their economic misfortune is because of immigrants. Their economic misfortune is because of Chinese laborers in China, right? Not because of what Fortune 500 companies are doing to exporting, manufacturing, and jobs. So in their mind, they are absolutely voting in their economic interest. Now, this idea of white people are disappearing. White supremacy exists on a spectrum. And you have those who are deeply animated by these beliefs in white supremacy and white hegemony, and you have to, sort of the Aryan race. We see them, surfacing more and more these days. They're being platformed. They're being sort of normalized, if you will, by Donald Trump and the like. But, I would submit that the large percentages of white folks, they're not looking at the census numbers, right? They're not worried about those particular kind of demographic changes, but they are seeing more black representation. They are seeing more people of color, right? So visually they're seeing it, not in their neighborhoods, right? Because we still live in rigidly segregated communities, but they're seeing it on television. They're seeing it when they look at the Olympics, right? It's a world of color. It's a nation of color. They saw it when Barack Obama was elected. They've seen it with Kamala Harris as vice president. And they're like, you know what? This means something. This means something different. How is our world going to be upended? And then you have somebody like Donald Trump riding in on a white horse, playing to those fears, those racist fears. So when you get, like The Intercept, you get some white journalists like, maybe it is racism. What the hell do you think it's been? We've been saying that as academics, right? I mean, since Donald Trump arrived on the scene, they just catching up. Of course it is, but it's a racism framed through economics.
Absolutely. Look, we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's continue the conversation with Dr. Hassan Jeffries. And Dr. Jeffries, I want to get your take on this because our listeners are checking in. Mackie Samuels, Rudolph Woody, I see you. Morris Phillips, I see you. Let's talk about how do we bust this all up? How do we dismantle this in the classroom, bringing it back to the classroom? You got a shortage of black men in particular that are not present, that should be present, that could be present to help wage this culture war that we see in the classroom. I want to get your take on that, brother, as we close out the conversation. Stay with us, folks. It's Areva Martin Real Time. I'm Farajii Muhammad. This is KBLA Talk 1580.
She's the real deal in real time. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Have you heard of the 50-30-20 rule? This can help you spend and save your money wisely. So, how does it work? Distribute your dollars into 3 buckets. 50% towards needs, 30% towards your wants, and 20% goes to savings. Use this tool to help your journey to financial success. Sponsored by J.P. Morgan Chase & Company.
Workers in California cut and polish man-made stone for countertops, showers, and more. Without proper protections, workers breathe in harmful dust from the artificial stone material, which puts them at risk of developing silicosis. California employers are required to protect their employees from harmful silica dust by providing proper equipment and training. Stop dusty and deadly practices. Learn more at worksafewithsilica.org. This is a message from Cal OSHA.
Hello, LA. Metro is your partner for thriving communities and sustainable travel. We're dedicated to providing better transit for everyone. When you go Metro, you're more connected to jobs, healthcare, school, and loved ones. It's the way of the future. Start your journey at metro.net.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
There's no time like the present. Let's get back to more of Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
And let's get back to my brother, Dr. Hassan Jeffries, who is a history professor in the Department of History at the College of Arts and Sciences at The Ohio State University. And Dr. Jeffries has been just dropping so many jewels, giving us a context, giving us a frame by which we can look at this and of this situation of learning hard lessons and how to teach these lessons effectively. And in the final few minutes, Dr. Jeffries, I will, move to the side here, but I definitely want you to kind of speak to wherein I don't want to get people, excited by using certain words that doesn't speak to the moment. But can we say that this is an educational crisis? Are we at a crisis point in education and teaching history? Not just to black students, but to all students. Are we at a point of crisis at this moment?
Yes, and I have to put a little asterisk just to clarify. We are at a crisis, but it's a manufactured crisis. It's a manufactured crisis because it's been politicized. We were actually doing what we should have been doing in the classroom, and we needed to be doing more of it in terms of providing the professional development for teachers to learn more specifically about African-American history in California and ethnic studies. You had, states like New Jersey passing the Amistad Commission saying we're going to integrate African-American history K through 12. So we were doing the work. Then this crisis is manufactured, right? Post Donald Trump losing and this whole anti-CRT and now anti-DEI, talking about children being indoctrinated. All of that is a manufactured crisis. Teachers weren't indoctrinating our children. Look, I've been teaching at Ohio State for some 20 years. right? As much as I may have wanted to produce socialists, it ain't happening, right? It ain't happening, right? Now, but they're coming out a little critical of capitalism, but they ain't socialists, right? So the crisis is completely manufactured, but it's real. And so what we actually, the actual crisis now is the result of those outside of education who are imposing their political beliefs and views on our students, telling them what they cannot read, what they cannot learn about, what our teachers can't talk about. And even in those states, even in those communities that don't have, like California, doesn't have as a whole, doesn't have a divisive issues bill saying you can't teach this, that, and the other. Mm-hmm. You still have communities that are putting pressure on teachers, and so there's a chilling effect. So there is a crisis, but it's not the one that we hear about. In other words, in the schools because kids are being indoctrinated with some nonsense. No, the crisis is now being manufactured by those outside of the schools who are trying to prop up this a political system that continues to disenfranchise, that continues to marginalize people. That's the crisis that we're dealing with, and teachers are on the front lines of it.
Speaking of teachers, Mackie Samuels checked in and said, since black men only make up about 2% of classroom teachers, how do we encourage more black men to enter teaching, especially to mentor black boys? Thank you, Mackie, for checking in. And I want to add something to what Mackie said. That's I've heard that statistic of 2%, but then USA Facts put out nationally 1.3% of U.S. public school teachers in 2020 through 2021 were black men, which was a decline from 6.5% just 3 years before. So we do have a deficiency here. You're talking about teachers being on the front line, Dr. Jeffries. How do we get black men involved, engaged, and that way black women aren't the only ones waging this war?
Yeah, and not just only black women. 80%, some 82% of all teachers, right, are white women, right, in our public school system. So the majority is white women. How do you get more black men, more black people, but black men in particular, just in this instance, interested in becoming teachers, interested in entering into the field of education? You begin when they're in kindergarten. You model the idea. You encourage them to engage in education as black boys. You don't begin, in kindergarten. We already know Justice Department a few years ago came out with the statistic of children, of black boys in kindergarten, K through 12, preschool, already being disproportionately punished. Right? If you're in a system, K through 12, education system that is constantly telling you that you can't succeed, that you're always in trouble, there is no incentive, there is no model for actually going into education. There is no value that you see in it, and you're trying to get out of it, you're not trying to get back in. So if we want to see as a society more African Americans, more representation within our schools, then we begin today with encouraging kids not only to become teachers, but to say, listen, this field of education is so rich with opportunity of learning and knowledge. This is a knowledge economy, and we need some of y'all to do that as you get a little bit older. You create teachers in kindergarten, and not after they get out of college, even assuming they even get to college.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. Morris Phillips checked in. Morris and Mackie, thank you again, brother. Morris Phillips, one of our other great listeners, he said, remember Brown versus Board of Education ruling? That ruling destroyed black public education. Would you agree or disagree with Morris on that one, Dr. Jeffries?
I think you got to throw another asterisk on that, right? What it did was, let me just back real quick. So African Americans understood that the kind of quality education that black children deserved would only occur if they were sitting next to white children. Not because white children are magical, right? I've been teaching white kids for 20 years. They're not magical about white children. other than their ability to attract tax dollars and resources wherever they go. So African Americans understood that if their children are going to get the quality education that they deserve, that it has to be in a desegregated, integrated school system. But what happens, and this is where that sort of the idea of black education gets destroyed, what happens is desegregation does not occur on an equal basis. So black schools, although they were resource poor, right, they were resource rich in terms of the teachers, in terms of the culture that had been created, the culture of excellence and performance. And so that gets erased because black schools get closed, black administrators get fired, black teachers get fired, right? So desegregation does not occur on an equal basis, but it had to occur because we were never going to have the kind of quality education our kids deserve. The problem is the way it happened, not that it happened.
Dr. Jeffries, I could talk to you all day, brother. I'm serious. I could talk to you all day.
Same.
I'm going to be honest with you, but I truly appreciate you for giving us some analysis. And again, thank you, Morris Phillips and Mackie Samuels, for your comments, brothers. We truly appreciate it. But I feel like there needs to be more that has to be said because we're going into this new school year. We got like 30 seconds. What do you advise parents of black students to do as we go into this new school year? What's the best way you want to go? What's the best guidance you can give?
As much as possible, be involved. Talk to your teachers. Encourage the teachers to teach history honestly, to teach these subjects honestly, that you are engaged, that you want to be a part of it, and tell your teachers you got their back, right? That because there's going to be these other folk who aren't even parents who are coming in and want to move them off of teaching this stuff. Tell those teachers you got their back. If something happens, you're there for them. You understand that they're trying to teach the truth, and that will go a long way for our children.
There it is. Dr. Hassan Kwame Jeffries, College of Arts and Sciences, Alumni Associate Professor of History at The Ohio State University. Dr. Jeffries, we got to bring you back on, brother, for another set of conversations.
We'll
but I truly appreciate you. Thank you for your time and joining us today.
All right, take care.
You too, brother. Folks, that is going to do it for us. Man, 2 Power Pack hours. I cannot thank them enough. Dr. Hassan Kwame Jeffries, my sister Ashley Banks. Folks, make sure y'all do your due diligence. Make sure y'all continue to support us here at KBLA Talk 1580 because these are the type of conversations that we are having. And these are the type of conversations that we are having, and I'm just so happy that to just facilitate them, and for your enjoyment as well as for your listening pleasure as well as for your education. So we truly have to have our brother Dr. Jeffries back on. All right, that's going to do it for me. Up next, we got the Rob Report with my sister Robin Ayers. But tomorrow we'll be back to have another set of great conversations. I'm very excited about the special guest that we have joining us tomorrow. Make sure y'all follow us on all social media platforms. And as always, stay tuned to the great work as we are standing unapologetically progressive and unapologetically black because we don't black down. And certainly we got a lot to talk about on Areva Martin in real time. I'm your special guest host, Farajii Muhammad, and this is KBLA Talk 1580. Have a great evening. Peace.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison is encouraging Rochester residents to reject hate and build a more welcoming, inclusive community. The Attorney General, who is black, was among several elected leaders and local officials who attended an anti-hate rally in Rochester over the weekend. The local NAACP branch organized the rally after several incidents of vandalism involving racist symbols and slurs in the last few weeks. Ellison said those who practice hate speech and vandalism need to know that they are being lied to and used by others with an agenda.